Introducing Brad Olsen, author, publisher, speaker, and world traveler. Brad is the author of the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric, Future Esoteric, and his latest book, Beyond Esoteric. Brad is also the host of the Esoteric series on Sci-Spi.tv, featuring his show Antarctica by Sail, highlighting his life-changing journey to Antarctica. At our Sedona Ascension Retreat, taking place March 18th through the 21st, Brad will be presenting about his book, Beyond Esoteric. He will also be offering a presentation about Antarctica, his journey there, and all of the paranormal, supernatural, and esoteric phenomenon of this frozen continent. Enjoy my discussion with Brad Olsen, and then stay tuned to see how you can register for our Sedona Ascension Retreat and a coupon code for a special discount. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm here with my dear friend, Brad Olsen, and we are here to talk about the Sedona Ascension Retreat coming up this spring during the spring equinox. We've extended this event to 4 days here in the Red Rock paradise of Sedona. And of course, Brad Olsen always brings on a powerful presentation. And for this retreat, he's going to be offering 2 presentations, one on Antarctica, and one is a brand new presentation based on his esoteric series. And this will be a debut. So very excited about that. Welcome, Brad.
Oh, thanks, Suzanne. I'm so looking forward to the Sedona Ascension Retreat. You put so much hard work into it, and people are responding with ticket sales, and it's going to be a great event. It always feels like a family reunion when we do these conferences and everybody comes together. So it's going to be really fun on the spring equinox, a very pivotal time as well in even in history, what's going on in the world today. And that's really important, that people feel unity and togetherness, and that we can come together and learn from each other and really bring this ascension to the next level.
Here in the vortex, right, where it's so conducive to shifting into higher consciousness in this high frequency spiraling vortex of Sedona. Yes, and so let's talk about your presentation that's a debut, because it dives into esoteric knowledge and wisdom and some disclosure and bringing it into sort of how this applies to where we're at today and the impact on people's lives here and now. So yeah, tell me about your new presentation.
Yeah, this will be the world debut, starting with the Sedona Ascension Retreat, based on my 3-book series. Beyond Esoteric is the latest, and Modern Esoteric and Future Esoteric, the other 3 together in the series. So this talk is called Hidden Esoteric in Plain Sight. And really the essence of the word esoteric is the subjects and material that has been withheld from humanity. So I take that to the modern age and show all the things that have been hidden from us, but are right there in plain sight. So with new eyes to see and new ears to hear, I'll present how all of this has really been projected out to us, but in disguised, underhanded kind of ways, because there is the law of free will on this planet, that we all have the opportunity to make our own choices. And just like in the Star Trek series, the Prime Directive, that is, we're not allowed to be fully manipulated by these exterior forces, not only malevolent ET, that's sort of much in the background, but also the occultist way of underhandedly putting forth their vision that they want us to go along with. And so once you start to see the whole matrix of control that they've put us under and how they use these manipulative little things, not only in the media, but also in the products that we choose to purchase and the choices that we make in life, you'll see that this whole tapestry of manipulation goes to a very high level. And of course, you know me, Suzanne, I'm a very optimistic and positive person, but I feel like we have the right to know this stuff and we should know this stuff. And so Hidden Esoteric in Plain Sight will be an expose of all that has been draped over, but now we're seeing that man behind the curtain, like in the Wizard of Oz, and how they're pulling the little levers of control. And so when the magician's trick is exposed, their power goes away. So once you see how the magician pulls the rabbit out of the hat and you go to the show the next day and watch how they do it, you see it's just a magic trick. And stage magic is very exposed for what it is just usually an optical illusion or a trick of the eye. And they use this in so many different ways to manipulate humanity. And I want people to have a good understanding of how that mode of operation works and to come away from this talk seeing it all with new eyes.
And it almost seems like a condition of their plan that they do reveal what they're doing.
Yes.
And if your eyes and ears are wide open, it's pretty obvious some of the ways that they reveal through movies, through dates. And sometimes it's just very obvious and you can easily research some of these things and learn the truth. So it does. I love the title, In Plain Sight, because it seems to be quite obvious in many cases.
That's right. And one of the techniques is called the revelation of the method. So they'll even show you how they're manipulating us, put it out there in these subtle ways that most people just don't pick up on. But once you see it, you never forget it. And I also talk about the allegory of Plato's cave, that when the way the mass media disguises what's going on for real, and of course, they're getting their paycheck from the globalists, so they are the mouthpiece of the cabal of doing their bidding, so to speak, because the narrative is the most important thing, Suzanne. And if people understand and step outside of that narrative and say, well, I'm just not going to do that anymore, that's what peaceful people like you and me can do and make a stand. And that's nonviolent resistance and non-compliance to these corrupt systems that have seemingly taken control of the world. But we're seeing the breakdown of that right now. And it's because people are doing exactly that, just non-complying with these corrupt systems. And so we really have to know what we get into. Just like in the art of war, you can't fight an enemy unless you know how they operate. So this is a presentation about how they operate on a mass psychosis level. And I think people are going to come away with this with a better understanding about how we've been manipulated for so long and how to step outside of that matrix altogether.
For so long, right? Because this all goes way back to Sumerian times, at least, when you had these patriarchal forces come in. The story in the Nag Hammadi about the fallen angels, and the Book of Enoch about these beings who descended here and were looked upon as sky gods, but who had a desire for power and control, and also believing that they had a hand in creating humanity. And they very well may have had some hand in the upgrading of our genetics to enslave us, right? But it's like this bloodline seems to continue through Babylon into Greece with these gods and demigods, and then into the world leaders that are still in that bloodline, thinking that they're a superior species and they can do whatever they want with the subspecies, right? That are dispensable, right?
Very much so. And their whole belief that they created all this, so therefore they can control all this, it's all breaking down now, and they're losing their power because we're waking up. That's the Great Awakening. That is each one of us on an individual level starting to come into our power. And just like the poster behind you with the chakra system and sacred geometry, it's starting to see all of this through new eyes in a way that we start to become what has been withheld from us as well. And that is how we win this. This is how we ascend. And I'm so glad you used that word ascension in the Sedona retreat name, because that's really what it's all about. It's all of us becoming who we have the great potential of being, and seeing it in each other and lifting each other up from it. So
I do find
super
that.
scientific.
Oh, thank you. I do find that concept of descension and ascension to be interesting, right? Because even when you talk about the fallen angels, what we're really talking about are beings who descended into into what would for them would be a lower dimensional realm, right? And then we, all of our souls descend into this realm, right? But there comes a point when you have an awakening and you turn towards the light and ascend into your ascension now. And I think you're really seeing that split right now of those choosing descension. Excuse me. I'll have to edit that out. Something in my throat, frog in my throat. I think you're seeing a split now of those choosing dissension and others choosing ascension, right? And it's very clear who is on the descending, devolving arc now, and that would be those that are in charge, engaged in such atrocious acts that it only could be dissension of consciousness. But then those awakening en masse around the planet that have chosen ascension. And so this really is an incredible time of this great shift. And your revelation is a huge part of it. I think apocalypse means revelation.
That's right. Well, we'll save it for the conference, but I think you'll all be pleasantly surprised at what will be revealed. And people, even I, when I was researching this and putting it all together, was just shaking my head. Oh, this and that, and everything in our society has a level of manipulation and mind control. But the beauty is, we don't have to go with it. We don't have to believe it anymore. And we can just even laugh at how ridiculous those attempts are now, trying to keep us in this box. Because once our minds are free, everything else comes along with it, including the liberation of humanity from this long struggle of being controlled by this global elite. And look, we've been in this situation so much longer than anyone can understand. I'll give you an example. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh was considered a living god. He was human, but was considered a living god by all the people. So that was the control structure for thousands of years. And then during the Roman phase, you have the Caesars, who were then considered living gods. They were still men, but they were revered as such. Now we have the Pope in Rome with an ear to God, and that control structure over the masses, the pyramidal hierarchy, which we've seen throughout history, is now starting to crumble, because those of us on the bottom of this pyramid are rising up and saying, hey, that top dog on the top of that pyramid doesn't control me anymore. And they hate that, because then they lose their control. Once we take away the power that we give them voluntarily, it's game over. And it's a beautiful thing to see, because really all the institutions of the world pretty much all have to come crumbling down to restart it all and build it up again the way it should be, in transparency and, um, as Alex Collier says, the um, laws of consistency. We give full transparency of every function of government and technology to the next generation. Nothing gets held back. And then those children will be the bearer of all that new knowledge and carry it on every generation. And so that's what I see the human race becoming in the very near future. In fact, I see it happening in our lifetime, Suzanne. And that's why waking up to all this manipulation that we've been dealt with for so long is really vitally important for people to understand, as well as what I outline in my esoteric series of books. I mean, 480 pages in this one and about the same in the other two, and I don't repeat myself. So there's so much that has been kept from humanity that all that is hidden will be revealed. Promise you that.
It's interesting what you were saying about the prime directive and how these otherworldly galactic beings cannot interfere with humanity. And I think it's until they have learned space travel, right? How to learn to travel through wormholes or something. But they have other ways of impacting the consciousness of those on the planet. And so you talk about these world leaders and the Vatican and the Crown, and who are they serving? And are these galactic beings who have malevolent intentions then coming in through beings here on the planet? Are these of the reptilian nature from Draco and what have you, and they're either embodied in these beings here, or these beings are serving those forces? But at the same time, you have the Great White Brotherhood and the Ascended Masters and the Archangels, right, who are also impacting the consciousness of those on this planet. And either you can tune into that, and or some of these beings again may be embodied in beings on the planet who are making such a powerful positive difference right now. And so I think the book of Revelations talks about how you have the fallen angels, and like we were talking about earlier, the fallen angels and the ascended ones. And so and also you have the war in the heaven between the light and the dark, and Archangel Michael and the dragon, right? And it all culminates in this end time. And even in the book of Revelations, it says the ascension of the new earth and the descension of the old earth, right? And so it's all just really coming to this pinnacle point now, which is the end of an age and the beginning of a new age, right?
Yep. And here we are, the first progenitors of the new vision of the Great Awakening. If we were even to have this conversation 5 years ago, it would seem rather foreign, but now it's quite natural to talk in terms of joining a galactic brotherhood and ascending the human race collectively to the point where our powers and our human abilities are really going to be amplified in such a way that if you are of that higher vibrational source of love and compassion and gratitude, you'll be much more adept to this movement into the 5D, this great leap forward. And it's not like we're going to disappear and take off into another dimension. It's just that we're going to have a greater understanding of ourselves and the world around us. And we're going to be able to see through the lies and the deception just so much easier. It's already happening. And that's why these age-old institutions and the mass media are just falling to the wayside. People don't care anymore because it's nonsense and it just doesn't make sense in the new human that we're now becoming.
Yes, I've always thought of 5D as being a perspective and a way that you perceive the world around you. Like you said, we may or may not actually shift into another dimensional plane, but already we're seeing from a higher dimensional perspective. Would you agree with that?
Well, that's right. And just think of it as another level of awareness, of just being able to perceive and understand at a whole different level that you couldn't before, and that previous generations couldn't before. And it's funny that the subtitle of my book is Escaping Prison Planet, but when we make this ascension, then it's a prism planet, one of light and color and dimensionality that we just couldn't see before. Because look, we're locked in this third dimensional reality that is so dense where we're at that we only get tiny little glimpses outside of it. But if that were to start amplifying and really coming on in a much more abundant way, and look, the Schumann resonance is going off the charts, and we're just being bombarded with cosmic rays are coming into this planet like never before. So it's happening not just on a personal level, our personal growth, but it's happening really on a cosmic level that's going to bring all of us into this new kind of awareness. But people that are still stuck in manipulation and anger and fear, some aren't going to make it. They have a choice. They can come and join us, and of course we want them to, but that's where we go into free will again, and we all have that decision and choice to make if we want to ride this great wave into the new awakening and be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yes, those supercharged encoded photons showering us with this light, which carries information. And with biophotonics, we know that our DNA emits and absorbs light, encoded light. And so I really believe that these photons that we're being bombarded with carry information that can ignite our dormant DNA. And as more DNA comes online, more of our brain comes online, like you're saying, it awakens innate gifts and abilities. And so we start to become more advanced beings. And I've entertained the idea that maybe we vibe out of 3D. And I think many of us are vibing out of 3D to the point where we're witnessing it and we can observe what's going on in the lower dimensional consciousness, but we're not really engaging with it anymore. We're rising above it. We're transcending that.
Here we go.
Here we
Let
go.
the ride begin.
It's another interesting thing. William Henry and I were entertaining this idea about how many people have reincarnated at this time from other similar times like these in the past, when an age has come to an end and a new age arises. And he was talking about how some of the beings from Rome, from the Roman Empire, for instance, are reincarnated now and doing exactly what they did in Roman times, which were these crusades of mass murdering parts of the population that weren't in alignment with their Roman Catholic Church, right? Especially the spiritual groups like the Essenes and the Gnostics and the Cathars and different groups. And so, interestingly enough, then we were saying how many of those have reincarnated at this time. Essenes and Gnostics, because their vision is really in alignment with the modern spirituality, even this vision of God is within and you are God and God is living through you as you, and the meditative practices. And so very fascinating. And then William Henry was telling me that Mark Zuckerberg believes he is the reincarnation of Julius Caesar, or believes he was Caesar, or is the return of Caesar, Julius Caesar, right? And it's like, whoa, really? And yeah, so that's something that goes pretty deep and wide, Caesar's rule.
Fancies himself a living God. Look at that. See, history repeats over and over again.
Right, as they all
Yeah.
do. Really, I do believe they believe they're gods, and maybe they are part of that bloodline from the past of the fallen sky gods, right? Who took power and dominion over planet Earth. And so that kind of brings me, speaking of Zuckerberg, brings me into spiritual technology, like the picture behind me, spiritual technology versus artificial technology, or spiritual intelligence versus artificial intelligence. And I really do feel, and you've written about it in your book, how the technology is very important to the success of the plan of the New World Order, right? And how they're using the technology to push this plan forward.
Well, they're called technocrats, and then they're using technology to usher in their vision of our future, which is this transhumanism, which is terraforming the human body. Of course, I have chapters of that in Beyond Esoteric, that they're trying to make us human 2.0, sometimes against our will or unknowingly that this is happening. So again, people just have to be made aware of what's going on so that they can make the right decisions in their own lives to counter it. Because what's going in our food, what's being sprayed in the air, what is the fluoride in our water doing there? So there's all these things that we can make a conscious effort to counter and reverse to live a happier, healthier life. And I think that's really important with everybody that's going to be coming to the conference to understand, is that not only are we making these decisions on our own behalf, but we're also doing it on behalf of the humanity itself. Because really, when we're happy and healthy and living in abundance, we can make that reality for everybody else too.
And it's no longer a conspiracy about this tracking and tracing and facial recognition. And I was watching what's happening in China already, where I believe it's through their cell phone that they're part of a social credit score system, where if they jaywalk, their social credit score drops. There's the facial recognition is so widespread that they recognize you through all of these, thousands of cameras placed everywhere. And then even in the marketplace, people simply walk into a store, they're recognized by their face, they go and they purchase items off the shelf, and as they do, that's recorded, and then they walk out and their bank account is charged. And so all of your personal data is totally uploaded into this database, and you're simply data with a value assigned to you, right? And so now they can do anything. Your bank account can easily be accessed, and you have this social credit system. And like, again, if you violate something in your thoughts, words, or actions, then you have restrictions where now you can't travel. If you park illegally, now your social credit score drops and you can't fly. I mean, it's incredible. And it's like, this used to be, conspiracy, and now it's fact. I mean, this is actually happening on our planet.
It's very invasive, and it only will get worse until we practice non-compliance and nonviolent resistance. And really, there's only two ways that they can really track you. One of which is this thing, which is ubiquitous in all of our lives. But if you turn it off or put it in a Faraday bag or keep it away from you, and don't put that passport thing on there either. And then it's this way, injectables into our biosphere, which is the most invasive way of controlling a living organism that's ever been invented. So we really are at the precipice. And like I said, these aren't conspiracies anymore. This is fact. It's behind us. It's happening. We've crossed the Rubicon in so many ways. So that's why understanding what's happening and how to counter it is vitally important in any conscious person's life right now.
Definitely making those choices, because I know a lot of people will be enticed by this idea, right? That you can have a chip and now it's so easy. You don't even need a wallet. All you got to do is walk around and show your chip. And they were talking in this particular documentary about how this is happening in other parts of the world right now. And I can't think off the top of my head, but there was a restaurant in one of these other countries where to get in, you had to have your chip. And then that's how you purchased your food and drink. And everyone thought this like cyber cafe was so cool, because everybody had their chip and they're already implanting chips, and in some corporations are doing it for people who have security positions. So you can't access this secured part of the building unless you have your chip. So chips are already totally being implanted. And I think it's just a matter of time before they come here, and they're going to make them seem, so attractive, so enticing for people. But thank you for making that point about, it's a choice, and, know the ramifications of making that choice. Also, like this whole metaverse thing that, Zuckerberg's doing, creating a totally artificial universe that we can be an avatar in, right? And buy property and real estate and buy a store, and it's all totally holographic. It's not real, but sucking people into that, where they're wearing their virtual reality glasses now, all day long. And what happens to their real reality? Yeah.
You remember when PlayStation, when we were kids, used to mean going down by the river and playing all day, not putting on these goggles and living through some metaverse? Forget it. We need to get back to the earth.
Yes.
And really remember what it is to be human. I remember there was this great book I read in the 1980s called Megatrends. And one of the chapters was called High Tech, High Touch. So the more highly technically advanced we become, the more we really need that human touch again, that tactile experience of climbing up a rock face like you did yesterday and going on a great hike and doing all these really wonderful things and being out in nature and being with each other is so vitally important. The more this high-tech world becomes invasive in our lives, let's not forget we're still human beings.
Absolutely. And that's where the spiritual technology also comes in. Just even getting outside in the rays of the sun and open to receive the rays of the sun. And I do an ancient sun mantra, just communicating with the soul of the sun and the ladies and lords of light, and asking to be downloaded with these supercharged encoded photons to ignite my dormant DNA. And of course, getting out on the land and doing meditation out on the land. And yeah, there's so many different ways spiritually that we can raise our love light frequency and activate the divine within us, and not forget, we are not artificial beings. We may in some way be holographic, but we're still projections of our eternal soul, who is sourced from the infinite source of all that is, the divine.
That's right. Here
Yes.
we are.
And get outside with living, breathing beings and things, right? Like, I'm just kind of blown away by this whole, explosion of metaverse and how many people are super psyched about spending their entire day in an artificial world as an avatar with other avatars. And yeah, so, but anyways, again, that's the choice. So, if people are on that path, they're on the artificial path, and people are on the spiritual path, they're on that path. And so, then you can set aside the judgment and say, well, okay, this is your choice, but be aware of the choice that you're making and the ramifications. Yeah.
Very true.
Yes. And so during our Sedona Ascension Retreat, you're also going to be bringing in your presentation about Antarctica. And I understand that even though you may have given this presentation in the past, you continue to enhance it with new discoveries and new revelations.
Oh yeah, all the time, Suzanne. Ever since I was there 3 years ago, just realizing that it is one of the last unexplored, fully understood areas of the planet. I've often said in my interviews that it's the bottom of the ocean and what's under the ice in Antarctica are the last great mysteries on this planet. And more begins to unfold, and we're seeing how vitally important Antarctica has been for all these years. It's not just a frozen planet, but has been a receptacle of what might be trapped under the ice, from giant crafts to antediluvian civilization to being a potential hideout for the global elite. And so this year has seen the emergence of other elite going down there, just like it was in 2015 and 2016 when a lot of them were heading down there. And so I'm always on the lookout for what might be happening down there. And so my talk is called The Hidden Anomalies of Antarctica, the latest update. So I also include a lot of new information about what's happening. And it sometimes is a week by week revelation, new information coming out. So take the best of the best and put it into my talk. And yeah, I think it'll be well received because people are very interested in this part of the world and all the mysteries that Antarctica continues to harbor. And slowly this information is starting to get out. And being one of the only researchers that I know that's actually been there, gives me a unique perspective of giving people an idea of what it would be like to go down there and what to expect. And with any luck, we'll have Emily Infinity with us as well. And she was my partner on this trip, and she might get up and give a little perspective on the boat trip down there. We went down there on a 72-foot sailboat over the roughest seas in the world in the Drake Passage, and that was quite an experience in and of itself. But then once we got there, asking all the people at the research stations if they knew anything about these mysteries I described, and actually getting some replies that were quite unexpected. So I'll save that for the presentation and let people come on out and hear it for themselves. And thank you for letting me do 2 presentations. I know time is quite of the essence, and you and I are also working on our next video project, but Sci-Spi TV has the 16 episode series that I produced with you and Doc Skinner, our video editor, called Antarctica by Sail. So people can go to Sci-Spi TV and check that out if they want to see that video series. And then you and I are doing the One New Earth series. And we're going to give a little talk about how that's going and what the vision is behind that.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, Doc Skinner did a great job on editing the Antarctica series, and you can find that on scispi.tv, SCISPI.tv, on the Supernatural Adventures channel. And then on that channel, Brad has his own channel on, I believe we called it the Esoteric channel, the Esoteric series.
Right.
And on there, you'll find his Antarctica series, which is incredible, and the footage and the landscape and their adventure and some of the revelations along the way are super fascinating. Yes, and then you and I are working on a new video project, one, Operation New Earth. And I'm very excited about this series. I will be presenting at the event sort of the concept behind it, and Brad will be joining me to reveal some of the different topics we'll be exploring. Of course, we're inviting everyone to co-create the new earth right here and now by making these choices around sovereignty and unity and peace and harmony. But that also involves creating new types of government and education and agriculture. And so it's an involved topic, but it's well worth having these discussions and exploring not just spiritual, but practical ways that we can come together and co-create a new earth. And so that's our focus. And in our series, we also offer practices so that we are inspiring people to engage in that spiritual technology and look away from their artificial technology for a bit. And yes, so we're very excited about being able to present about that at the retreat as well.
A one new earth for everyone. And what a great vision you had. And thanks for bringing me into the fold. And we worked on a few episodes already, and we're going to continue when I'm there in March. And yeah, it's really wonderful to co-collaborate with you and co-envision a new series such as this, and look forward to everything else that we got going on, Suzanne. It's really a pleasure knowing you. We've been friends from the moment we met, and now that we work together on a professional level in so many different ways, it's really great having you in Sedona, and one of my really anchor friends there, and such a professional collaborator on these really important projects as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Brad. I cherish our friendship as well. And we've had some really fun adventures together and worked on projects together. And of course, have done many events. And so thank you so much. Love you, my dear friend.
Love you too, Suzanne. Looking forward to spring equinox. It's going to be a really great event. So everybody come on out and get your, well, you can get your discounted ticket by using Brad Olsen 10 on the website, and that will give you a 10% discount for this 4-day extravaganza with so many great speakers. Boy, I can't wait for it. It's going to be such a learning experience.
Thank you, Brad. Yes, just visit SedonaAscensionRetreats.com and also check out the optional activities. We have daily vortex tours into sacred sites around Sedona, as well as workshops being offered and a UFO skywatch. So lots of fun things to do here in Sedona during our retreat. Thank you so much for joining us. Many blessings. Namaste.